let's get started. So my very first thing, whenever we start thinking about research or setting goals, is you got to have a clear set goal of what you even need to achieve first. And with that being said, just saying, oh, I need to get some research, that doesn't tell you a whole lot, right? Like that could mean a million things to a million different people. And for me, I always like to go by the data. In my mentoring and tutoring coaching program, basically what I do is I always say very first session, we sit down and we write down what the data is. And so let's do that same exact thing for you guys right now. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about what your top 3 specialties are. So you don't have to share it. You can write it in the chat if you want to, but you don't have to. If anybody wants to share in the chat what they're interested in, that'll actually make this even more fun and engaging. And feel free to. You don't have to if you don't want to. But I'll use those for examples. So, all right, I see one for EM. Awesome. Surgery, cardiology, pediatrics, ER. All right, neurology, IM, radiology. Okay, cool. We got some good specialties here. So let's start off with, let's see here, OBGYN, EM, GI, cardiology. Okay, so we'll start off with internal medicine right off the bat, just because that has a good amount of fellowships that you can go into from there, whether you want to do GI or cardio or just hospitalist medicine. So whenever it comes down to it, you need to think about, before you even start thinking about how much research itself, you need to think about what type of a program you want to go to, because there's different tiers of programs and that will require different amounts of research for application. There's no one size fits all for each specialty. If you go online and look at the numbers, most websites will say, oh, you need like 6 publications or whatever, but that's not saying 6 for a university program, 6 for a community program, or 6 for an Ivy League program. So you don't know. And so what I want you to do right now is, when you're thinking of your specialty, break yourself down. And this is an internal experience that you need to think about, talk it over with family. But the first thing is think about, do you want to go to a community program, a university program, or an Ivy League program? Those are the 3 differentiators. So a university program, most people have heard of as an academic program. That's where I'm at currently, is at University of Arkansas. So it's in the middle there. It's not an Ivy League, like it's not Harvard, but it's also not a community program, like Broward General, for example. And there's nothing wrong with either of them. And there's not one that's best, but it depends on what your future goals are. If you go into a specialty that you know you want to have a fellowship afterwards, then it is recommended that you go to either a university or an Ivy League program. Those are the 2 best options for that instance. If you know that you want to go into immediate practice as soon as you're done with residency, then a community program would probably be better for you, because you'll have a little bit more hands-on training. You'd probably have less requirements, such as research. You might not have to even do research during residency, which a lot of the community programs don't have that as a requirement. And actually, that was one of the reasons why I picked my program, is I knew I wanted a university level program, but I also wanted actually as little academic based bench research as possible, because I prefer doing research that's involved with clinical situations. So whether it's case presentations or some kind of an abstract publication based upon a unique scenario that we saw, that's more up my alley. And so that's why I picked this program. It's one of the contributing factors that I weighed whenever I was doing my residency match list. So if we're looking at the data here, for internal medicine, if you want to be in a categorical internal medicine position, you're going to need at least around 3 or 4 research experiences. Okay, so let me just repeat that. There's a difference between a research publication and a research experience. Okay, and so with that being said, what does that mean? A research experience is something like, you have one project and it may yield multiple presentations, or it may yield multiple publications from the same project. Okay. And so what I want you to look at is what the different percentiles are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send a link to everybody that joined today. And it's going to have every single program. It's going to say, what's the 25th percentile? What's the 50th percentile? What's the 75th? And what's the 100th percentile of what you need for your own specialties? And so you find your specialty, you decide, do you want community, university, or Ivy League? And how to know which percentile to go for is a community program. You want to hit the 25th percentile as the bare minimum of what you're applying with. If it's a university program, you want to hit 50th to 75th percentile of research experiences. And then if you want to go Ivy League, you need to obviously be in the 100th percentile of research experiences. And so for some specialties, like for example, for vascular, you got to have over 20 research experiences, 20 research presentations, abstracts, or publications to match into the 100th percentile. And that was something that I ended up doing while in medical school, solely for the purpose that I didn't want to have anything limiting me throughout this process. And I actually decided not to apply to some of the Ivy League programs because I knew it wouldn't be a good fit for me personally. But the biggest thing is you don't want to close any doors on yourself. And so when you're going throughout this process, a lot of people get really hung up on research. Like, should you do bench research? Should you do clinical research? Some people don't know that there's different options or that you can even do one or the other. And so you need to determine what's best for you. If you are fine with being in a lab and pipetting and breaking down tissue samples and all that kind of stuff, then you would obviously want to find a research lab, get tied in there, and bang out projects that are going to end up taking 2 to 4 years probably to get a publication. That personally was not for me. And judging by what I've heard from a lot of your guys' colleagues, that's not what a lot of other people are interested in either. If you are essentially trying to mesh to a top program, having one research experience that was awesome but lasted for 4 years, I mean, sure, they'll like it, but also they would rather see somebody that had versatility and they're able to put out 5, 10, 15 different projects, because that shows that you're able to balance multiple things at once, which is how it's going to be in residency. It's never, oh, like work on this one little thing and hopefully it yields something by the time you graduate. No, you're going to be given a lot of different opportunities from all different angles. And so they want to see students that can handle that. All right. And so that's kind of my first thing, is break down what type of program you want, break down what kind of percentile of research experiences you would need for that specific program. And then the next step, which is your third step here, is think, do you want to do more clinical research with patients, or do you want to do more bench basic science research?